that we need to discuss and think about. Very often we think of rules and regulations as a bad thing, but they aren't really bad. We all need them in our lives.
Some of the rules are to protect us from getting killed
Yeah,
or
but
even dying.
that's right. So maybe we look at them this way as guardrails and barriers.
Hmm.
Barriers can keep something out, but it can also keep you from going off the side of a cliff. So let's talk about that. Excellent.
I think the biggest thing we need to start with is what's happening in the world, and that's the disease.
Hmm.
And I believe that if we follow some of the rules or even some of the uh, promotions that we can help you get through this. And for myself, I'm going to talk about myself. I
Hmm.
sanitize my hands every time I wash.
Hmm.
The sanitation I have is not just alcohol, it's got sulfur oil added to it. Where you just put alcohol evaporates at 170 degrees.
Hmm.
But when you add the sulfur oil, your hands never get dirty. You can put grease on them and it washes because that soaks into your skin. But when it soaks in the alcohol, it protects you for 2 hours
Wow.
compared to when you just put on alcohol,
Yeah, yeah.
15, 20
Wow.
minutes, it can be dried off and it's gone because it's
Hmm.
just plain alcohol.
Hmm.
But another thing I found out is the fact that if you've been in a group of people and say you went to a meeting and you start to sneeze, your body is designed to have stuff coming out of your nose, and that's to clean your nose because you're breathing all the dust and dirt. And as the mucus comes out, it cleans your nose. But if a bug gets in there, like a flu or the virus,
Yeah, yeah.
it tries to penetrate the mucus. As
Hmm.
soon as you start to feel a tickle in your nose, you have something wrong. Salt will kill it, salt water. You take a pinch of salt into water, or you can put it in the palm of your hand, put a little water, put salt in there, sniff it up. It'll kill that germ. But I'm finding out that you take the sanitizer with the alcohol and the
Yes.
oil and put 2 drops on your hand and put your thumb in there and go find that bug in your nose until
Hmm.
you find it, oil it, put alcohol on it,
Hmm.
and the sneezing quits.
Hmm.
But then when you wipe your nose or on your mouth because you're breathing, all the bugs and everything that's in the room is coming to where?
That's
Here.
right. That's right.
These people that are wearing a shield does not protect them
It does not. No.
because there's no cloth.
It looks like it's great, but it doesn't really protect
No.
anything.
I
No.
just when I see somebody and I gotta
I'm like,
laugh.
why? Yeah, exactly. You have no
No
mask on,
common
just a
sense there at
shield.
all because
Yeah,
there's no filter.
that's right.
So we're telling you if you're gonna wear a mask, that's fine. If somebody sneezes, you don't get it into your eyes because the bug can come through your eyes too.
Right. So that shield protects your eyes, but it doesn't protect your nose
No,
because
does
it
not
just
protect your
goes.
nose and your
Yeah.
lungs. Well, one of the things that happen when you get the disease is pneumonia.
Hmm.
Okay, if you have a hard time coughing or even blowing your nose, go to the drugstore or go someplace where you got a mucus thinner. Keep your body flowing. Keep getting rid of the waste. That's what our bodies are made for. It isn't just going to the bathroom.
No.
It's in our nose. Even our ears have wax in it, and you have to clean
Hmm.
them once in a while. So tonight I'm trying to promote you. Use some common sense and go to people when you have a little bit of a problem and just go to the doctor and they'll even tell you, you got to
That's
do
right. You
something
gotta do
about this.
something.
If you just keep on sneezing and keep on coughing, you're going to have pneumonia.
Hmm.
And the pneumonia is what kills you, not the disease.
Mm.
We have my brother, his wife just passed away last week.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
It's,
that.
she's probably in her 80s. And it's sad. They have a large family. On the other hand, when you hear that, she didn't take care of herself. I got a son and his wife and two of his daughters were coming against to what was happening, and they were listening to rules and regulations. They caught the disease and gave it to his mother-in-law.
Oh
Nobody
boy.
died, but on the other hand, see what happens.
Hmm.
Why are rules and regulations there?
To protect you.
Yes, and so it's not good to be wearing a mask. I hate it. I've got a hearing aid, and I hate it because every time I put the mask on, the hearing aid comes off. But you go a little bit now. See what you'll talk
No,
better.
that's that's right.
I'll open the window
Uh,
here.
no, it's very often we think about these rules, and sometimes they're there to help us on the journey. I think we can vilify rules and say, well, we don't want them, but no, the rules are if properly applied to our lives, they will be beneficial. They'll help us to stay on track, help us from going over the dangers of life,
Mhm.
and especially now when they're talking about new strains of COVID and things of that nature. I mean, the suggestion you made with the alcohol and stuff is an excellent one. Also, washing your hands of it a lot. All the different things that they're talking about now, even in this country again, they're talking about wearing masks again. Inside as well as outside, because of new strains of the COVID virus that's coming out. So we follow the rules. Rules are um, some people used to say rules are meant to be broken. No, rules are meant to be followed. Now, if the rules are good rules, then you have to figure out the best way possible to work with what you have, to work within the framework of those rules. And I think that that is something which is an educational process because they don't necessarily come naturally to us. Sometimes we have to ask questions. Sometimes we have to go to the internet. Sometimes we have to find someone that is further along the road than we were and ask them, what are the rules here? How do I play this game of life right? What do I have to do to make sure that I'm successful in this area? And they will explain the rules. It's like trying to play cricket. India plays cricket, right?
Mhm.
And you don't know the rules. Why are they running back and forth like that? What does it mean that when you hit the ball past a certain point that you don't have to? It's an
Mhm.
automatic 6 runs or stuff like that. You really have to understand these things, and understanding the rules helps you to play those games well.
Even driving a car, you
Yes,
can't go down the street
practical
at
example.
100 miles an hour, and there's a lot of people here in Palm Bay that are doing that. There are congestion. They're just coming here to the building to do this interview tonight as cars that are lined up for 5 blocks.
Yes.
So if you can't see, common sense is the greatest thing that we have. Our bodies were born. There's certain things that we. I'm going to mention God. Somebody had to
Mhm.
give us these
Well,
privileges,
of course.
and we were born a certain way, and we're trying to adjust back and forth. What are we going to try and accomplish? I mean, gender makes a difference, or even skin
Mhm.
color makes a difference. No, it doesn't. It's who you are and what you are. And if you make a friend, be a friend, and bring a friend to a life of freedom. That's my motto for today.
Mhm.
Democracy is freedom. And there's even certain countries that have caste system. Who regulates that? It isn't people regulating other people. But on the other hand, people should be teaching other people so they do stay safe.
Yeah, how to
And
navigate.
going into India, seeing these homes with dirt floors, it's important that they know that they need to wash their hands. They need to, whenever they're creating food, I've seen them, and there's no counter space, there's no cupboards of making their meals on the dirt floor, sitting on the dirt floor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're touching the dirt and where people are walking, and if somebody's sick and he's leaving tracks behind,
You
then
can
you
get it.
take care of it.
Yeah.
Even our home, we had it listed for a realtor and we was going to sell it. And every time people came in to see the house, we got a spray bottle and we sprayed all the doorknobs, everything they touch, because
You don't know.
you have to put a little bit of effort into it.
Yeah. So it's
You don't
basic
know who's the one
maintenance.
that's
Yeah.
sick that's coming in,
Right. Right. It's basic maintenance. I mean, I do
but
that.
everybody that comes in, we treat them that way.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we'll get through this. On the other hand, I think there's other areas that we look at. Why? Even electricity. There's certain, even, and me as a starting electrician, we had regular outlets and we had breakers and panels, but all of a sudden they come out with a ground fault. That was to protect the person.
Hmm.
And you know how the guy that invented the ground fault, he'd hook up a breaker and give it to his little 6-year-old daughter, and she would turn the breaker on, she would dump it in the swimming hole. He had that much confidence
Mhm.
that that gunfall was going to take care of his daughter.
Wow.
How many other things that can we manufacture or even have that's going to make it better for the next generations?
Hmm.
And even myself as an electrician, can we had lightning that hit just a couple blocks away from our house, and you should have heard it tonight. It makes me thinking,
Wow.
why is that being wasted? Can we harness that?
Mm.
I'm trying to educate people to follow rules and regulations, but never quit what we can accomplish. If you look at me, born in 1934 and didn't get a car till I was 12, horseback, but on the other hand, listening to the radio was something new, and what is going to be accomplished. Your welfare is an education. It's not watching games and shooting and things that are happening on the internet. We need to be playing the game of life.
Hmm.
The game of life is education. You you see somebody do something, like a carpenter or a plumber, and you ask them, "Why are you doing that?"
Hmm.
He explains it to
Yeah.
you. There's a reason behind it.
Yeah.
A trap on a sink, water.
Yeah.
That gas that's in the septic tank comes back, and you're sleeping. You're dead.
Hmm.
So that trap of water keeps that gas from coming
Captures it.
back. Electrician, ground fault breaker. You can touch it and you can touch something else and it ain't going to kill you. So many rules and regulations and things that we have adapted. And there's more things we can adapt.
Hmm.
Even like now, they're saying that self-driving cars are going to be more important than somebody driving because they fall asleep with the car that's
Heard of.
self-driving
Yeah.
will not fall asleep is because it's mechanical, unless it runs on electricity.
Yeah.
But all of it is a learning curve, and I encourage everybody, go to your computers. You can Google anything you want. My wife does that. I mean, she wants a telephone number from somebody that lives across the United States, and she gives them the name and where they live, and they give the telephone number.
Yeah.
We have a process. We have a learning curve, and you can go not only to the computer, but you can go to your family. Each one has got a different gifting,
That's right.
and that person in a different gifting can teach you something that you never knew. And every person that's born today is going to be getting married. That's one of the frictions that you have to work into, and a family unit that you have to train and teach. So your
Hmm.
teachers, are we going to make a better world of what we're applying to each other's lives? Or are we just trying to be satisfying each other? There's kids today that are playing games that are 40 years old, aren't married, don't have any children, and don't even have a reason for their life, don't even have a job. Have we trained our kids?
But that's one of the concerns I have is that, in this country, I don't know about other countries, but it is hard to find workers. I know that myself, I'm trying to find people to do some work for me, and it's hard to find them.
Yeah.
Well, it's now because of some of the things that were passed and some of the things that we were are put out there. What they're paying for, the handout, the dole, as they would call it
They're
in
getting
other
more
countries, right?
unemployment
And
checks than they're getting from working.
I think it's having a reverse effect. I went to a restaurant. Um, to think about that, I went to a restaurant on Monday,
Hmm.
and I walked in, and the lady was sitting behind the counter. I says, "Well, I like to sit." She says, "We can't sit you, takeout only." I says, "Well, why?" I mean, she says, "I can't find anybody to work in the kitchen, and I can't find anybody to work inside the place." So this restaurant that previously was thriving and
Hmm.
was dependent on having people come, they can't find people to come and to wait on tables. They can't find people to come and cook the food. So they're doing takeout only at a fraction of what their the
Hmm.
revenue earnings and stuff is. So I think it's going to have a really bad negative effect And I don't think that that was what the rules and the regulations were set for these things. It wasn't meant to help you so that you can stay home and not work. It was meant to help you when you're having a hard time, to subsidize your income,
Mm,
not to replace your income. And so it's a dangerous thing. So when rules and regulations are abused, it will affect many things. Now, there is a possibility that that restaurant might not be able to stay open because they can't sustain the losses for the few months that no one's working
mhm.
while they're staying at home trying to live off of the income that they're getting from the government.
It's
So,
sad that that's even happening.
yeah,
Your unemployment check should be less than what you're doing because you're not driving to
it's a
work,
help. It's
you're
not,
not burning any gas, you're not expenditures go down. So we should barely maintain them is what we need to do. I think the biggest thing that bothers me is the fact that Amazon and Facebook and all these big entities. I'm not judgmental to anybody, but I believe that there has to be equality. Back when I was just a teenager and I was trying to be an electrician, the phone company said that we're going to acquire a couple more other phone companies. Our government stopped from doing that because it's a control.
mhm,
And we're having the same thing happening here in America, and
right
in other
now,
countries it's probably happening too.
right now,
That you
yeah,
have control and the distributing factor. And if it takes $15 or $18 to be able to keep a livelihood, we need to be paying these workers are the ones that are making the money. They're delivering all the equipment and these uh, corporations are making billions of dollars. I even mentioned Bill Gates. Bill Gates, for an example, I'm not judgmental.
right. I
He's
understand.
divorcing his wife. She's taking half the money. She's donating it to the poor. Well, look
Really?
what she got.
Wow.
And he's concerned about how much more he can make. I mean, I'm just using that as an example. And there's other ones, Facebook and some of the other ones are doing the same thing. And because they have all this money, they have control of even how we live,
Mhm,
how we need to be able to find the job we need,
mhm,
and to be able to survive and have a good life.
mhm.
I mean, to me, the greatest game you can play is the game of
The
life.
game of life.
If you're not,
Play it
when you're
right.
born,
Play it
and
right.
if you're not educated, when you're learning languages, and by the time you're a teenager, then you're brainwashed and you don't even know what circumstances you're supposed to. You're not educated into any job skills, like you're saying. They
Mhm.
can even in a restaurant, just serving food. It don't take much
It
education to
doesn't.
do
It
that, but they
doesn't.
can't find that
They
out
can't
even,
find people.
and it's sad.
It is sad. I mean, I know in my business as well, I've been trying to find people, and we've had this the sign out for about 2 months, and no
Hmm.
one, not one person came to apply.
What is that?
Not
More
one.
of a secretary or
No, it's working in a sign shop, working to
oh, the
help,
sign shop?
yeah,
Okay,
help to
okay.
distribute, manufacture signs and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. Not one person, not one. And
I'll
I'm
probably
wondering,
send somebody. I get my grandson's not doing anything.
yeah, it's but we were looking for someone a little bit of skill, but the fact is that not one person's coming. It's very interesting.
Hmm.
And then I heard someone say the other day that they'll like to stay where they are because they're getting more money, to stay home than to do
Yeah, I know
anything.
that's
And
what's
that's
happening,
sad.
and that's sad.
That's sad. And I don't think I think that's an abuse of the rules. I think it's an abuse of the mindset is an abuse of what the intention was. And
Right.
and see, so that's why we're saying that guidelines are important. But when we abuse them, when we violate the principles, when we deviate from what the purpose was, we get into trouble. The purpose was to help you. The purpose was a hand up, not a handout. But we've abused it and we made it a handout, and we're happy with that.
Yeah, we have a tendency that the government tries to control everything that's happening, and we see that in other nations, and especially when I see it in some of the countries that I've been in, and saying to myself, well, how far can you go? How can you, yeah, look at another human being and you try to classify him And I don't think that's right, but
Mm.
I believe like India, when the women stood on the highway and they stood 128 miles of women shoulder to shoulder, some of us need to do that. Even what's happening in
Mm.
Haiti and Cuba, and we're downsizing in America and doing things that they don't even like. And there's people even living here in America that went back to Cuba and Haiti and are trying to make a difference in the country that they came from because they still have family back there.
Mm.
And I think that's the most important thing that the family is the bolts and nuts that keep everything together.
Yeah.
And if we start to slide where we're losing a family and separating a family, even that's one thing I don't like about even the cell phones or even the computers, where most of my children are living all over America and we have the cell phones where we can have a connection, but all they do is text. And you don't hear the person's heart and you don't hear
No, you
the
don't.
person's common sense or even what he's trying to achieve. When you're talking on the phone, you feel what they need,
You can
and you
miss that.
can be helping each other. And if it's a word of knowledge, a word of encouragement, I got one of my sons that's I'm encouraging him because I believe he's called.
Mm.
He worked for the governor of North Dakota, and he's set in a place where he has places he can move into. And now that he's retiring, he's not going to quit working. He's talking about going into and make a difference before we even. So, do we leave a legacy behind? That's the point I'm getting to.
Mm.
Our legacy is who we know, who we uh, understand, how much we know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you're encouraging, even like now with India, we're going on national TV. We're going to be
That's
teaching
huge.
the whole country. At first, it was going to give us just the southern half, and then when we explained to them what we're doing right now,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking to this computer. We're leaving an education curve behind, and this national TV was going to start showing it on national TV. We're trying to teach and train the whole country. Can we make a difference? And somebody even
Absolutely.
mentioned, oh, we've run out of space here on the Earth. We can start shipping people to Mars and start another colony. But I mean, I'm just throwing that out. How do we
Yeah.
learn and how do we've had people that went into space just in the last month here now that had lots of money showing that they can accomplish it. Where's it going to quit? Where's our whole, I believe that the whole universe has been built for us for education. What can we do? It isn't just self-driving cars and electric cars. I've got a thought pattern. I can make it a magnetic motor. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you just charge up the magnets and you can drive without
And you
anything.
know.
No matter what you do, you're leaving residue behind.
Mm-hmm.
You say, well, electric cars are better than gas because you're not leaving smoke and burning up oxygen. Well, we need to be having some common sense. If you're burning up oxygen by cars, we need to take and start planting trees because there's a difference. We were designed
Yeah.
that we breathe out carbon dioxide. Trees are breathing in oxygen. All the plants are, and if we totally start to burn it away and destroy it, we're going to have a barren world. We're going to be the same thing like Mars. There's nothing growing there because
Yeah.
but on the other hand, it takes common sense that we need to be looking for the future, replant some of our trees, and start to achieve what keeps us healthy, wealthy, and well. The
Well, that.
wealth only comes because you're promoting your
Mm-hmm.
uh, factories, you're building, you're coming together. It should be coming together at co-ops,
Oh
taking
yes.
the little bit of money that you have and if you go to the bank with one person or two people and you want to borrow $1,000, they'll look at you and say, well, you can't afford to pay this back. But if there's 30 or 40 people coming from a village and saying, I want to borrow $1 million, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
build a factory, I want to build a business like you say, and I want to put up businesses where there's money, there's income coming.
Mm-hmm.
Only person and only country or even a business is the income that's coming and taxes being paid
Right.
and everybody survives, everybody's working. That's where we need to get to.
Wow.
I
That
feel bad when you keep hearing that people don't even want to work.
they don't. They don't. I mean, if you just driving down the strip over here, you'll see so many for help wanted signs, from car washes all the way through to lawn care services, all the way to restaurants, even the Walgreens.
Yeah, but see, when you allow a certain segment, I'm not even going to say the name, a certain segment that are trying to take all the wealth, and even like, I'm going to say this, Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is not invested, it isn't making any money. And one of the starters of Bitcoin made a statement the other day. You take money from the poor and you give it to the rich in Bitcoin because it's not invested. Money has to be invested.
Yes, you have to work.
And
Yeah.
even myself, the wealth I have of today at 89 or 87 years old is a wealth that I took and invested 20, 30 years ago,
Mm.
or even 5 years ago. I invested in Tesla,
Keeps growing.
and it's growing. And I can make a difference in these countries that I'm working with: India, Africa, 7 countries in Africa. One, the same thing, a teaching tool. I'm leaving a legacy behind. And it isn't just making wealth for yourself.
Right.
You should be having an
Oh, of
eye that
course.
you're either you're taking care of your family, you're leaving a trust account, and when you pass away, that your grandchildren, your great grandchildren can go to school and earn, and they can do the same thing that you have done.
That's a wise
Then we have
person.
something that we have accomplished.
That's a wise
But if
person.
you're
Yeah.
not leaving a legacy behind, how can anybody do anything?
Hmm.
Teach them you can just take welfare and you can live. Well, welfare don't get you no place. I'm not
So
being judgmental. I'm just
no, no,
saying
I understand.
anybody that comes into this country, my grandparents did, it was all about freedom, freedom of choice, to be able to achieve.
Freedom to achieve. Well, I came to this country. I wasn't born here. So, I often say that if I can experience the American dream, then someone that is naturally born here with the natural benefits should be able to experience that as well. And the only difference is between them and me is that you believe that you can do it and you pursue it.
Well, look
You
what
know,
you've accomplished. I mean, to the
oh,
position that you're at.
oh yeah, I mean running
And it isn't just
corporations and stuff like
me
that. That's
being just a plain old electrician.
mhm,
I was a journeyman. I went to a person that had 12 people working for him, and then pretty soon I was working a general foreman where I had 3 teams of people, and you had to supply all
mhm,
the paperwork, and you gained the knowledge
yeah,
in that time frame that you were even working. It
yeah.
isn't just. I mean, when I got my first computer, I didn't use it for playing games. I went in and I searched and I found out things, and I'm still finding out.
Yeah,
This is 17 years later. I'm still learning.
you're still
I
learning,
was
of
72
course.
years old when I forgot my first computer.
And wow. And if you determine to learn something new every day,
Well,
you
even in
you
my cell
you
phone.
look back, you'll be like, wow,
Yeah.
that is phenomenal.
Even when your help came up to me the other day and tells me that I can take and everything we're teaching right now. You can put 16 gigabytes on this little piece of plastic. It's a teaching tool, and that's the reason I'm holding it here now. I'm going to give it to Jeff, and he's going to take all of our teachings that we've done in the last 2 months, put it on this stick, and I can send it to people that are teaching in different
Yes,
countries. They
yes.
plug it into the computer, and the teaching is
They
there,
follow.
and the computer can go to an overhead. They can shine it on the wall. They can
Amen.
teach groups of
Amen.
people the value of life
Hmm.
and make a difference.
Yeah.
And this is only $6.
Yeah, for a bunch of them. So we owe it to ourselves to learn what the rules are, learn how we can utilize those things that are out there to better our lives, to better our society, so that we won't get stuck. There's a saying that talks about the lazy person. Laziness. is it means to poverty.
Mm,
But the person that is diligent, the person that continues to search, the person that continues to work, the person that continues to educate themselves, that's a path to prosperity. And you may never become a Bill Gates, but you don't need to. You don't need all that.
no,
But you,
it's,
you need enough to be able to supply for you, your family, and your neighbors. And if you can do that, then you are a wealthy person and you're a prosperous person. So, well, what we're trying to say today is that rules and regulations are important. They're not meant to keep you out. Sometimes they're meant to get you to another level. And we can utilize all of these things. We can be wise, be smart, and then we can accomplish the things that are greater things than what we've done before.
even myself, I'd work as an electrician and go working 40 hours a week. And there was always a little bit of time in the evening, and I'd be preparing something for the weekend.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, I even got my kids to help me, and we would find a house that needed to be reshingled, or find a house that needed a bit of remodeling. And I even started to buy homes, and they were in despair, needed to be painted. So every weekend, Friday night, Saturday, all day, and maybe even a little bit
Done
in
that.
Sunday, we'd go and do a little bit of work.
Done that.
But I'm saying something that makes some common sense. If you're a lazy person just sitting in the easy chair, you're going to die by the time you're 50 years old. Because your body needs to have exercise. And there's a lot of people today, we have all these exercises places.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you going into lifting weights and doing all these things when you can be going? And that's where I started my business. I went and remodeled, I mean, 24, 25 houses, bought them for $15,000 and selling them for $40,000,
Yeah, yeah.
and doing this little bit of work to them, and finally got to the place where I had enough money to start building new homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
See,
selling mobile homes.
learning, growing.
And
Yeah.
so I'm telling you, and then not only just doing all these things, you have a little extra cash, see what the future is.
Mm-hmm.
Even like now, Tesla. Somebody told me, invest in a Tesla, invest into this chip company 3 years ago. I said, okay, I got some money stashed away. I threw it in there, and it went from $260 to $2,600 in 3 years.
Wow. Wow.
Both of them did.
That's exponential growth. Yeah.
So, see, you keep complaining and saying, well, I'm working hard and I'm not achieving anything. You're still not thinking right. You have to invest yourself. You invest in, if you don't know something, you find out from who.
Mm-hmm.
You can go and Google anything you want, and it'll explain to you who, how, and what to do.
That's right.
And uh, and we need to verify it, because a lot of times there's
Right.
people that
Just write stuff
give
that
you
you
the
don't
wrong
even
answer.
know. Yeah,
You
yeah.
can verify everything you do, but just like I said in the beginning, there's certain things that are set aside to make you safe, and even the computer can make you safe because you
Mm-hmm.
can always verify it with somebody else.
That's
I
right.
just seen this. Take your cell phone, dial somebody that you probably
Check it
knows
out.
he's in that area. That's
Mm-hmm.
what he does. Verify that what you're doing is safe.
Mm-hmm.
Even taking medicines and everything else that you're taking. Even myself, I had a hard time sleeping because I have leg cramps. The doctors were giving me medicine to help me sleep. Finding out in the middle of the night, my heart is down to 42
Wow.
pumps. And I'm saying to myself, whoa, no
Something's
wonder I
wrong.
don't feel well in the morning. I feel like somebody hit me over the
Drained.
head and I
Yeah.
quit.
Drained.
And
Yeah.
finding out that now my pulse is back up to the 70s and 80s. But see what happens. We do
Do the
things and we think
research.
that we should have that common sense to be able to realize there's something wrong here. And you just don't go to one person and try to find out. He might give you the wrong thing. But you can verify what you're taking and what you're doing, read their labels. If you go to a pharmaceutical, to a drugstore, read the piece of paper. It tells you where the side effects are.
Yes.
And if
Yeah.
you start to feel the side effects, wait a minute, you quit using that
Yeah.
medicine.
Yeah. That's right.
I had my wife, my first wife, the doctor had given her heart medicine. And for 3 years she was taking it.
Mm.
And nothing was happening. My blood pressure was high. I took her to Mayo Clinic when we moved down here to Florida. And the doctor was reading his schedule and looking at the medicine and
Mm-hmm.
looking at what she was taking.
Mm-hmm.
And he stood up and he started yelling as loud as he could, and the whole building heard him. What's the matter with this doctor? 3 years of having his high blood pressure? And they actually did. They killed her.
Wow.
That's why my first wife died.
Wow.
She died from a heart attack.
Wow.
Using the same
Unnecessary.
medicine. We found out, but it was
Research.
too late.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're doing things in our lives, and if we don't feel well, you either tell the doctor that you're getting it from,
And
there's
get
something
response and
wrong here.
research and find out.
We
Yeah.
common sense.
Yeah.
Listen to me. Common sense. We need to be exercising between each other and asking questions and looking at things. Is something wrong? Because every person isn't designed the same way.
Mm-hmm.
One
Mm-hmm.
person can take it and it can work.
Right.
Next
Another
person
person they
takes it and it's
can't.
got a side effect.
Yeah. That's right. Well, this is wisdom. And I pray that you've learned something from the wisdom, and I pray that you experience, and as you apply it to your life, hopefully you will see results in your life. Until next week.
And
Bye
if you
bye.
don't know something, ask somebody.
Yeah.